should introduce you. This is Marianne Van Berlo. We have met many times through the District 3 Ontario Hort Society, and you're with the Belleville Hort Society?
No, Brockville.
Oh, Brockville, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
And she has lovely gardens.
yes.
Thank you. Okay, from beginning. Okay, thanks everyone for joining us this evening. Just gonna move the little talking heads out of my view here. And tonight we're going to talk about design basics and plant selection. And let's get right into it. So before you start even thinking about the design and planting, you have to, of course, figure out what you really want and what you're working with. So some considerations would be the location, where your property is, where you're building this garden, whether it's adding a new bed or an entire garden makeover, the purpose, what you want to use your garden for. Take inventory of what's already there and think about the design and style that you want. And also consider the maintenance. How much work do you want? What are you hoping to achieve with this design, and how low maintenance do you want it to be, and what can you do to achieve that? And of course, there are other considerations to take into account. By location, zone, of course, is very important. Ottawa Zone 5A. I was trying to figure out where Coyne would be on this map. I'm not sure if you're 5A.
We're 4B.
4B, okay, you're just in that greenish zone there then. But you've got to take into account what your hardiness zone is and what plants will survive in your area. And the location on your lot itself. Is it sunny or shady? Is it really exposed to wind? Now, I know plants don't feel wind chill, but they certainly do get beat up by a heavy wind or get desiccated by drying winds in the winter. So think about where your dominant winds are coming from and how much rainfall you get if you're growing under trees or on the north side of the house, and you're or let's say the east side. If your prevailing weather comes from the west, then the east side might not get enough rain. So consider all of these things when you're designing a bed or designing the whole yard. And also location would take into account your type of soil, whether it's alkaline, acidic, or neutral, whether it's clay, loamy, or sandy soil. And of course, on a property, you can have microclimates because of topography. A slight hill would, on the lee side of the hill, you'd have less winds, and maybe if it was facing south, it'd be slightly warmer. In this little diagram here, the trees would create a little microclimate in between. And of course, in this case, it's also a bit of a swale, so there's water pooling in the middle, so that's a natural spot for a pond or a stream. So think about all of the things, the topography, and how it affects your site for any planning that you want to do. And of course, the purpose. What do you want to use your yard for? Is it about having a spot for recreation? Is it about aesthetics, curb appeal? You just like looking at pretty plants. Maybe you want food production. So again, that's going to take up some prime real estate, maybe your sunniest spot. But if that's important to you, that's what your design should focus on. Privacy, if you want to add screening to your yard. In this picture, they've done a great job. They've got the large tree screening and then the shrubbery in front that doubles the privacy screening. And maybe it's also taking out some noise in the background. It's hard to say. We don't know what's going on back here. It does kind of look like there's something back there, maybe a road. So privacy screening and biodiversity might be another thing you want to achieve in your yard. And that's not saying these are all exclusive of each other. They certainly can be different areas of your yard, but you've got to keep it all in mind of what you want to include in your design. And of course, you've got to decide what's right for you. Maybe you want your basic foundation planting and specimen tree on your front yard. This is two halves of a double, and you can see that they've gone totally different in design styles. So somewhere in between might be your style. You might be the one to the left, you might be the one to the right, but you've got to find your comfort zone and go with that. And of course, you've got to take inventory of what's already there. This is just a little sketch I put together. And key information that you need to include is the dimensions, the sun exposure, which way is north. And then you need to include any existing structures that influence the lot. So not just structures, features, I should say features, because your tree on your front lawn is definitely influencing what you can grow and where you will have shade and ground conditions, dry, it'll be dry under that tree. Your neighbor's tree is going to influence your yard also, because if the sun rises in the east, you might have a shadow from your neighbor's tree. Garden shed, driveway, house, any structures that are there. Put them all on paper, and then you decide, what do you want to keep and what goes? Well, maybe the kids have outgrown that play set, so that's going. And maybe this arbor is falling apart, so that's going. The shrubs at the front aren't doing it for you anymore, and the little walkway, it looks a little lame against the big side of the house. So let's just say those are all the things you're taking out. And obviously the bigger things that you can't, you're not just going to tear up your driveway and take down your house to redo your landscape. And you probably want to keep those big trees, and a garden shed's always a good thing. And this was the hydro pad, lucky lot that has the hydro pad on it. And of course you cannot do anything about that because hydro has an easement on your property. So that hydro pad's there to stay. So these are the things that have to stay. The check marks and the X's, of course, are the things that you're saying, no, I want to change or get rid of. So now you've got a blank slate. So now you've got to think about what you want to achieve and how you're going to do that. So make a list. Oh, I did say that, you want to track the sun exposure. So let's look at that. And you also need to look at where the entrances and exits and windows are in your house before you do any planning. So all things you have to consider. And your easements, in this case, you might have the hydro pad in that corner. So there's going to be underground wiring. So do a locate. 1-800, I'm not sure, I think it is locate, and they will come out and mark it, and there's no charge for that. They rather you have you do that than hit the cable, electrocute yourself, or break a gas line. So always good to do that. Think about the pathways of where you need to get to and how you're going to get there. So if this is your back patio door, and you need to get to your garden shed. So, you're not going to put a structure in between that you have to go around all the time. Obviously, people coming in your front driveway need to get to your front door. So you want a direct path, but, it doesn't have to be a straight line. It can be a nice path. And if you've got a side door to your garage, then you've got access in and out. So, like I said, all things you need to keep in mind and take into account when you're doing your planning. So now decide what it is you want to achieve, and you can make a list and then prioritize. So these are some of the things that you may, like, the list probably could be longer, but, I put together a list of some things people might want for their yard, and then you prioritize. So in this case, we're going to say they want to increase curb appeal. And they also want to hide an eyesore, that hydro pad. They don't like seeing that all the time, and that being the thing that greets their visitors when they drive up to their property. And their second priority would be an entertainment space and some shade to do that entertaining in, and a vegetable garden. So now that we know what the priorities are, let's try and map those out on our little plan. So obviously curb appeal is in the front yard. and hiding the eyesore and curb appeal go hand in hand. 2 and 3 were shade and entertaining, or entertaining and shade, I think was 2 and 3. So they make sense being in the backyard for privacy and just off the back patio door that we said was there. And 4 was for it to grow some vegetables. Well, if this is north, this is west, so that's a good spot. It's not getting shade from that tree until late afternoon. There's an access door to the garage, so you have somewhere you can keep your tools and get back and forth into the house. So this makes sense for your vegetable garden. So now that we've got kind of some of the background done on our design, let's look at the actual elements and principles of design. So the elements represent the core issues of design, and the principles, they're how you use those elements and the visual impact or effect they have. And that's going to become clearer as we go through the different elements and principles. So the elements themselves are line, color, and that can be complementary, contrasting, neutral, focal point, monochromatic. The texture, airy, soft, hard, and that's taking into account not just plants, that's all these structures and everything. Form and shape, and that's, form is the three-dimensional, so conical, versus shape, which is two-dimensional, so a triangle. And space and mass, that represents the voids versus occupied space. And movement, and that can be literal and figurative, and we're going to look at each of these more in depth. So line, well, the first thing you see in this photo is that nice curving line of begonias. And that really has a big impact. But then that line's also echoed in the arching grasses, the arching plume at the top, and also the arching branches, leaves on the grass, blades of grass. So you see, and there's also upright lines there from the grasses. So there are all kinds of lines going on. You don't really think about it until you start analyzing it. Another example of line, very straight lines, the opposite of what we just saw. They're enforced by the edging, makes it straight, plus it's highlighted by the little conifer along both sides that just draws your eye down that walkway. It's almost like a runway, a lit up runway. So very strong lines in this one. Color, this is at the Royal Botanic Garden in Edinburgh, Scotland. And they had this one massive border that just went through the color wheel here, from the blues to the pinks to the reds, oranges, and yellows you can see in the distance. And it was quite dramatic. Obviously, we don't all have beds that size to go through that many plants in big clumps like that, but you can do color themes in your garden. Certainly you can try and do all hot colors. And I don't think anyone would argue that that jumps out at you as very vibrant and hot. Are there cool colors, like the nice mauves and blues in this picture? Color echo is something we'll often hear talked about in design. And we've got 3 plants here that echo that plummy color. This is a Salvia plumosa, a little heuchera, and Xenox, Sedum xenox. And they all have that nice burgundy purplish foliage that reflects through and unifies them because you're reusing that color. Another way to have color echo in your garden, or using color effectively, is through the accessories. And this lady did all her accessories in this blue color. Whoops, I'm on the wrong cursor. Hang on. As you can see, she used that blue color throughout the garden. I think it was very effective. This was on a garden tour at the OHA convention, and some people didn't like it at all. But I thought it was quite neat. And textures in the garden. So These just plants in this picture, but there's so many different textures going on. You've got the airiness of the Paraskia, the strappy foliage of the Hemerocallis, the daylilies, true lilies, and then the big leaves of the hibiscus, the perennial hibiscus over here. So lots of different textures going on. Another example of texture, the hostas contrasting with the ferns, contrasting with the heuchera here. And if everything was the same, it'd be boring. But because you're using the different textures and colors, it just makes everything look better as a whole. I mean, the individual plants are pretty, but the overall picture is enhanced by the different textures. Another example of texture, the rubbery leaves of the sedum at front, quite solid and heavy, and then you get the airiness of the switchgrass behind it, and the other grasses, of course, also. And the carpet, the soft carpet of sedum in the foreground. Form and shape. Your plants can add form and shape. Your structures can. And in this picture, I've tried to highlight how some of the plants, well, we don't often think of them as having form and shape. They do. The delphiniums and lupins will often have a central leader that's much higher than these side secondary shoots. And, you know, that looks pyramidical. Clumps of perennials look very mound forming or circular. So there's all kinds of different shapes and forms in our plants themselves. And just to look at a few different of the shapes and how some of the plants represented, I thought I'd highlight like triangular conical shape. I mean, there are trees in that shape, little conifers, and again, like a lupin where the primary bloom is way up there and the secondaries are down here, making it look very pyramidical. And then on the Kniphofia, the red hot poker, each flower itself is conical. So when you're, picking up a plant or tree, don't just think about the color and the height. Think about its shape and its texture. Looking at more shape, round or circular. We've got the mound of heuchera, teddy bear sunflower, the flower itself's a nice big ball, the globe cedar, and of course, some maples are very round in their growth habit, so you get that circular effect. Columnar or rectangular, a lot of different columnar trees. This is the Karl Forster feather reed grass, very upright and columnar also. And this is the foxtail lily. So each one of those is a little columnar flower. Vase shape. Again, you see trees quite often vase shaped. Evergreens quite often will have that vase shape to them. Baptisia is a perfect example of a perennial that has that shape. And then, of course, the mallow flowers, if you look at them from the side, they do have that vase shape also. Space and mass, another element. And like I said earlier, it's the voids versus the occupied space. Because if you had everything in plantings, your eye wouldn't know where to look. It needs somewhere to rest. So you've got open grassy areas as your blank space, the open area in your patio. Again, I'd be bouncing from feature to feature if it was just full of plants and structures. So you need the voids also. And movement in the garden. And that can be literal or figurative. So just how you walk through the garden, how your eye is pulled through the garden. That is the movement we're talking about, but it's also grasses swaying in the breeze, the trees swaying in the breeze. So it's both types of movement. You want, it shouldn't be just a picture that always is sitting there. It's nice to have some actual movement and activity in the garden. So now the principles, and this, remember I said, is how all the elements that we just talked about are used in your garden to give a visual effect. And the principles we talk about are repetition, rhythm, emphasis, balance and symmetry, proportion and scale, unity and diversity. So this picture, I mean, perfect example of repetition and rhythm. We've got repetition of the plant matter. I believe this is a wallflower used in each of these circular beds. Repetition of the purple flower behind, repetition of the shapes, the curving hedges, the clipped yew balls in the middle. So just by repeating everything, it builds up a rhythm that your eye naturally follows as you're going down this long pathway. It's just so natural to see mound, mound, bed, mound, mound, bed, mound, mound, bed. So it's just, well, you heard the rhythm there just in me saying it. So that's what that means. Emphasis or focal point, and you can have more than one. It can be seasonal. It can change with the seasons. It can be a structure. It can be a plant. But, you know, in this picture, we're definitely seeing this Japanese maple as the focal point. And all the plantings around it just kind of add to it. If it was busy down here, you wouldn't notice the great branch structure, and the bright red foliage, I think, would stand out anyways, but it's not competing with the supporting players in this garden. Balance and symmetry. It doesn't have to be matchy-matchy. We're talking about visual balance. So we've got a hedge up here and a hedge down here. We've got wall here, we've got structure here that adds to it. So it has a symmetry, it has a balance, but it's not a mirror image. This is a really good example. We talk about balance and the impact. Well, looking at this, you know that rock weighs a lot more than these ferns, but visually they're balanced. There's a mound of ferns which balances with the big rock. There's a tree over here that balances with the tree over here. They're not identical, but there's definitely a symmetry in this little design. Proportion and scale. You don't want things to look out of place. So if you've got a big yard like they have here, you need a nice big border, a nice big patio leading up to it. You don't need a big lawn, but if that's what they want, fine. So big plants in this border, the tall grasses, almost the same height as that arbor. So it all works together for proportion and scale. Unity and diversity. So this just means things that are similar, but still different. This picture is a great example. A friend took this picture in my garden, my previous garden, and I hadn't even noticed this before, but the variegation of the two, the Daphne here and the Weigela here, are pretty much the same colors, but yet the leaf is totally different. So they work together in that the colors are similar, but there's such a contrast in texture that they're also very diverse. And this one is just, to me, it kind of summarizes it all, puts it all together. You can see there's definitely repetition and rhythm, use of the coreopsis throughout, just kind of unifies it, draws your eye through, but there's also repetition of the blue the fescue grass in the foreground, the juniper carpets here. So you get that repetition. You've got repetition of the sedums on each side. The bench, I would say, is a focal point that's kind of drawing you down that pathway. You've got a light stand here and a tree here. That kind of balances out and also gives some vertical interest. Proportion scale, well, looks like it's in scale to me, and it's unified and diverse. There's a lot of similar plant material, a lot of repetition of colors, and yet there's a lot of different plant material there. So it's all unified, and yet it's quite diverse in its use of textures and different surfaces. You've got the stone pathway, stone bench. So it all works together. This is just a great example of how it all can work together. And you've probably all got these things going on in your yard. You just don't analyze it to that detail. But if you're looking at your yard and saying something's not working, then sometimes you've got to say, well, is it balanced? Is it that have symmetry? Is there a focal point? Are things in proportion? Is it unified? You know, those are some of the questions you can ask yourself when you're looking at it. And I thought this was worth repeating. Joe Reardon is one of the head gardeners at, he's worked at a number of the big gardens in the UK. But basically what he's saying here is that any garden can benefit from repetition, and it just carries the eye along and around a border, giving both movement and cohesiveness. Now, one of the quickest ways to get repetition in a garden, if you're adding a bed or redoing your garden, is to take some of your existing plant matter, dividing it and adding it to the new beds, or just moving it around so it repeats in different spots in your garden. That will unify things. And just be cautious on that note that you don't use your most invasive plant, because then you'll just have too much of it. Try and pick a plant that you really want to highlight. So don't forget, your garden should be a journey to discovery. This is a garden in Hudson, Quebec, and they had this beautiful stone sculpture, but you'd get glimpses of it when you're making your way through. This was like a 3-acre garden, so it was a large garden. You'd get glimpses of Gabriel here. That's the name of the statue. But the path would lead you in another direction. So you'd go off to see something else, and then you'd kind of wander back towards it and you see it again. So you need things that will draw you through, and you don't want the whole garden revealed right from the outset. You want to make it a journey of discovery. Another example of that is this little garden had a little woodland path, and you're walking down the woodland path and you can hear running water, and you get to a break in the foliage and you can see this pond. And so there's water, but it's definitely not the running water that you're hearing. So you continue on the pathway, you come to a clearing, and there's this beautiful waterfall and Japanese maple and willow and pedicites and stilby, and just a gorgeous little pond. Just excuse me. Okay. Style, think about what you want. You can have a very formal garden, which has lots of straight lines, is very balanced, very symmetric. The formal style uses repetition of the same plant matter versus multiple plant types. And some of the examples of formal would be Baroque or French parterre, Rococo. And your informal gardens generally have curving lines. They can be asymmetric or symmetric. There's a very large diversity of plants. And examples would be cottage garden or Asian gardens, which are very informal. So we don't have Versailles anymore. Well, we do have it, but it's not the normal gardening style. But you could still have a formal or semi-formal modern day backyard garden. And these were some that I thought represented that quite well. I'm going to say semi-formal because they definitely have the straight lines that we think about as being formal, but the plantings here are not formal at all. They're not all the same. They're actually vegetables, which is unusual for a parterre, but it works. It's beautiful. Same here. We've got the planter boxes or the beds, very square, square pathways, square area here, matching plantings, edged in boxwood. So this is quite formal looking, very straight lines, not a lot of different plant material. And again, this one, you've got your straight lines, minimal plant material, quite a formal feel to it. Versus these, which are all great examples of very informal styles. So more relaxed lines, lots more use of different plant material, curving lines, just has that more relaxed feel to it. So let's go back to our little backyard that we were designing. Whole yard that we were designing. So remember, we had already decided what our zones were going to be. So just to refresh it, 1 and 1 were curb appeal and hiding an eyesore. 2 and 3 were entertainment and some shade for entertaining. And 4 was our vegetable garden. So now that we know a bit more about design, we might end up with something like this. So a bed around the hydro pad. You are allowed to do some landscaping around the hydro pad, but they do have an easement there. So you have to be cognizant of the fact that they may need to get into that equipment box. So don't put really expensive plants there, or leave one side open so they can get access to it. And then we did some curving lines of a bed in the front to add some more interest, a curving pathway, and we try to do repetition of plant material. You can see the different shrubs there and there, and these represent boulders or stones. And again, you could put a stone here to kind of hide it. So that kind of makes it match with some different textures of the hardscape, texture of the mulch, texture of the plants. And then in the back here, we've put a nice curving patio in, again, trying to avoid straight lines. These big triangles are sun sails, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. And so that they provide shade, so that now becomes your entertaining area with some shade. And raised beds for gardening for your vegetables. And again, symmetrical, same shape, nice straight lines. And so that accomplishes our 4 different goals. Some curb appeal, hiding the hydro pad, shade and entertaining, and our vegetable garden. So this is what I mean by shades, or sail claws, sun sails. What they are, they're very strong canvas. They attach to your house, and of course you position them in such a way that you're going to get maximum shade out of them. You can take them down in the winter so that they're not blocking your light in your house in the winter. To me, they're aesthetically pleasing solution, and probably reasonable cost one, as opposed to trying to cover that whole area. And the fact that it's less permanent also appeals to me. And you can buy these fake stones to cover some of these eyesores too. I know my sister got one. She picked it up in the States for a lot less than you would pay here in Canada. But if you Google it, you'll find they are available in Canada. But if you're a snowbird, maybe pick one up when you're down south. You'll save yourself some money. And if you're going to do a big design, you have to keep maintenance in mind. And there's no point doing a beautiful garden design if you're not going to maintain it. So think about what you're capable of doing. And just remember, there's no such thing as a maintenance-free garden. There's things you can do to give yourself less work, but you're still going to have work. So to me, one of the keys is trying to buy low maintenance plants. And to me, the questions to ask when you're considering a plant is, does it have a long bloom period? Does the foliage look good all season? Does it produce a lot of seed? Does it need shaping? Does it flop? And does it need special growing conditions? Now, depending how you answered those, you may think it's, worthy of your garden space or not. You can also, do some mechanical things like mulching and putting in edging to try and keep the maintenance down. This garden bed has been mulched in the black mulch. And of course, she's got the edging in there to try and keep everything neat and tidy. This is shot in my garden. So I've got everything mulched with wood chip mulch. It's a lot less formal looking. If you can get a load free from Hydro, you're off to the races. I buy it from my local arborist because he has a huge pile of it. And when I need it, I can get a load of it for a reasonable cost. I mean, he has to cover his trucking cost and the backhoe to load it up and his staff's time, but it's still much more reasonable than the shredded bark mulch would be. And the plants like it. It does enhance the soil also. Now, this is a garden in Port Elgin, Ontario. I was visiting my brother and I'm taking a walk, and I really like this, but to me it was still lacking. It's got a very Asian feel to it, but the house to me isn't grounded to the landscape. So in my opinion, it needs a tree, and it would be much better if that was a Japanese maple, but I couldn't find clip art for a Japanese maple. So there you go, it's a conifer. And something just here, maybe a shrub or two to balance things out. To me, that just kind of makes it look a little more cohesive and makes the landscape and the house a little more joined. To me, the house is kind of floating above the landscape before. And you can see this is a very similar house and a very similar landscape on the same street, but they do have the shrub and tree. And in my opinion, that just makes it look a lot better. So your other considerations, or some of the other considerations for plant selection, try and think of, you want to get multiple seasons of interest out of your plants. Sure, peony's beautiful and we all grow them because we love them, but they don't last that long. So it better have good foliage the rest of the year. It better not be covered in mold. And peonies, one of the plants I think of when I say personal reasons for growing certain plants. We all have a plant that we grow because mom did, or your aunt gave it to you, or whatever. We all have our reasons for certain attachments. Consider the environment. Some people are very keen on that and will only grow native plants, but definitely consider not putting invasives in. Think about what pests you have to deal with on your property. And of course, you want to consider the plant health itself at your point of purchase. And when I say multiple seasons of interest, I want to show you a few examples. This is a tree, 7 sunflower tree. It's often really just a multi-stem tree, which looks more like a shrub. It may not be hardy in your zone. I think Ottawa is about its limits. I know a lot of people grow them successfully in Ottawa. It flowers in August, early September, the white flowers. It's got this beautiful exfoliating bark that you see all year, especially in the winter when the leaves are off. And after the flowers finish, there are these red bracts that are left behind where the flowers were. So we don't always get to see those if we have a short season, but if it's a long season, then the tree goes from white to this beautiful red. So to me, that's a lot of bang for your buck. And the foliage looks good all year when it's not in bloom. I shouldn't say all year, all summer when it's not in bloom. In the winter, you've got the beautiful bark. And if you only have room for one tree or a small tree, then maybe consider a fruit tree. You get great flowers, They have great branching structure. To me, a well-pruned fruit tree is a work of art. And of course, you get fruit from it. So again, good bang for your buck, lots of multiple seasons of interest there. And this is a little species peony, Paeonia moliquitsii. Molly the Witch would be the common name. Comes in this yellow or this pale pink. But the foliage doesn't look like a peony foliage. It's kind of glaucous, the water beads up on it, and it remains beautiful all year. It doesn't look tired. Well, by October it does, but for the most part of the season, it looks great. So while a peony doesn't have a long bloom period, the foliage and the rest of the plant look good. And of course, even the seed heads are quite interesting. I grow ornamental rhubarb. I just love the pink color when the leaves first emerge in the spring. When it's in bloom, it's amazing. Definitely a focal point, an exclamation point in the garden. And when it's not in bloom, you still have the beautiful big leaves. The undersides are still pink. So it definitely has an impact in the garden. Now, you may not have room for a big specimen like that, but there's nothing to say you can't grow the regular edible rhubarb in your flower garden and have it as a showpiece also. And native plants, there are a lot of good native plants that give you multiple seasons of interest. This is our May apple. So to me, it's quite dramatic when it emerges from the soil, and then it flowers, and then it has an edible fruit. Although be forewarned, while they are edible, you don't want to eat too many of them. It will have a negative impact on your digestive system. And like I said, you do buy plants for sentimental reasons. Like I mentioned, the peony. I still have peonies from my mom's garden. And of course, nowadays, a lot of people plant trees to commemorate birth of a child, wedding, something like that. So that's a great tradition. And of course, we've all heard this saying, the best time to plant an oak tree was 25 years ago. The second best time is today. And we all know you don't plant a tree for yourself, you plant it for the next generation. This is an environmental type garden. This is a prairie meadow put in by entomologist Dr. Jeff Skevington in Ottawa. He had to get special permission from the city to put this in because, you know, you could get neighbors complaining that he's not cutting his grass. Well, that's not normal grass, that's prairie grasses, and they are required for certain pollinators. And of course, all the different flowers are all prairie meadow flowers. And we used to have prairie meadows in our area, and we went for the tour of Dr. Skevington's garden, and he brought us, this is in Constance Bay, which is on the Ottawa River, and he brought us to an area, and it's just, it was a tiny little spot, and he said this was probably the last remaining prairie meadow in Eastern Ontario, and it was in danger of being encroached on by all kinds of other things. So, you know, they used to occur naturally, but unfortunately now they don't. This is a former master gardener's garden, and she had about 3 acres of just pollinator plants, all kinds of things that pollinators love. She put pathways all the way through. It was certified as a wildlife habitat by Canadian Wildlife Federation. So if, you know, that's something to keep in mind too, if that's your goal with your design, go for it. And you can still have all the design principles and elements in it, but just choose your plants to suit what you're doing. And unfortunately, we all know about the garden pests that we have to deal with. So be conscious of that when you're picking your plants, or put up deer fencing. Some of the deer sprays actually do work. You just have to be diligent about it. They only last about 3 months, and then you have to get out there and spray again. And bunnies, well, I'm not sure. You definitely need to fence off your veggie garden. Grow clover in your lawn. Rabbits love clover, and they probably go to that before they go to your ornamentals. I don't know if they'd pick clover over lettuce or carrots though, so definitely fence your veggie garden. And plant health. When you're at the nursery, look for the best healthy plant you can that's pest and disease free, has a good root system, and looks vigorous. So obviously, I don't think any of us are going to go for the plant on the left. We'll be going for the plant on the right. And there's nothing saying you can't pull the plant out of the pot and take a quick look at the root system. Just do it carefully and make sure you put it back in all the way. Just because you didn't decide to buy it, the next person who does would still like not a dried out root system or broken root system. The one on the left to me is a little too crowded, and the one on the right is definitely the better option. But if it was the only option in the store and you really wanted it, then then you're going to have to do some work when you get home. You can't just stick that in the ground with the roots going round and round. Try and tease them apart. Try and get those roots so they're growing away from the plant and not back into the center, because you're just asking for problems if that's what happens, that the roots just keep going around themselves. Sometimes you actually have to physically cut them and get right in there and spread that root ball apart. And when I mentioned plant vigor, these photos were provided by Jeff Mason of Mason House Gardens near Uxbridge. And I guess he had a customer come back and say, "Are you selling those annual echinaceas?" And he said, "Echinaceas aren't annual, they're perennials." She said, "Well, in my garden, they're annuals." And he said, "Well, then you're not buying the right one." So he looked at his stock and he realized that they weren't all equal. So if you were going to buy one of these, which one would you buy first? Well, you should look at this one first. These guys have put all kinds of energy up into a flower already. This guy hasn't. He's got good, healthy leaves. We can't really see it there, but more development going into roots and a healthy plant than into producing a flower. Next choice would probably be this one, but you still want to cut that flower out. And I don't know if that one would be worth taking home, because it's going to take a while for that to ever get to a good healthy root size. And it's all in the details. So when you're when you've got your garden plan together, look at those plants, look at the labels, and decide what's going to work and what's not going to work. Now, this Russian sage, it's called Little Spire. And what really hit me on this one was I bought it because it was touted on the front side of the label as a dwarf variety of Russian sage. But then when you look at the details, it says height 1 meter by 1 meter, but it can be pruned shorter. Well, that's not a dwarf. If I have to prune it to make it short, it's not a dwarf. And depending how much of a type A personality you are, you might want to keep really detailed notes so that you know when things bloom, when you know what their different textures are and their shape, and that might help you in your planning. And you could add some columns so that you know what location it is in your garden, when you planted it, where you purchased it. And you could update that annually because height's going to change over the years as the plant matures, and bloom time is going to depend on the year. Also on the maturity of the plant. I know sometimes you put a plant in and it blooms really late the next year, and the next year is a little earlier, and then following year it's a little earlier still. But that's just because it's got a good established root system. It's not spending its energy trying to feed the plant. It can actually now put its energy into blooming. So let's look at some examples. Big backyard. This was on one of the OHA garden tours, but it works because they've got big borders, big plants, big pergola in the middle, lots of different colors, textures, shapes, and forms. So that all works together. We've got a small garden, a big walled garden. This is in the UK. But I thought it was a good example of a garden that could transplant to even a townhome garden. You know, you'd probably want to add some pathways through it, but it definitely would work. Lots of contrast of texture, different colors. There's still unity in the colors. There's different shades of mauve. There's mauve and burgundy in the foliage. Different textures in the hardscaping. Different heights. Just so much going on here that all works together. This is a backyard in Brockville, and she's repeated some of the plant material. She's got coneflowers dotted throughout. That color is reflected in the cleome and a phlox back here. And then we've got, that looks like helianthemum, but it's also, you know, reflected in the Rudbeckia. Looks like sedum. Hydrangeas, it all works together. It's got different textures, different shapes, but they're also repeated so that it unifies things. A little shade garden in Brockville, and you can see how they've used a Japanese maple as their focal point. Lots of different contrasts with the leathery leaf of a hosta, delicate geranium flowers, mounding shapes, upright shapes, eyes drawn up to the focal point, statuary, just all works together. And bright patch of impatience to lighten up that shade. Another dash of color over here. Little backyard, again, you can do a lot in a little space. Doesn't have to be full, but if you enjoy plants, why not? So you've got contrast of this beautiful bark on this tree with some uplighting, and grasses for a nice feathery texture and some movement. Contrast of the hardscaping with the mulch, with the texture of the plants, a little fountain for sound and movement. Again, some uplighting there. Height, repetition of these shrubs at the back. Couple more little backyards. I love the arching lines, the curving lines on this one. It's nice and clean. It's obviously freshly installed, but you get again the contrast of textures, the pea gravel, the flagstone, the mulch, the airiness of the plants, the strappy texture of the hemerocallis. And here you've got structures, focal point in your seating area, contrast of textures, colors. And this is Rockwall Garden near Perth. Now, she specializes in alpine plants and lots of sempervivums and sedums and things, orostachys. But even in a garden of this scale, where everything is tiny little plants, you can see that she has still employed the principles of design, where she's got repetition of the stone material. She's got repetition of different plants and different colors and different textures. So the elements are still all there. This garden was designed completely using drought-tolerant plants. A former master gardener wanted to show that you could still have a beautiful garden without watering. So she installed these. There's actually 3 beds here, this bed, and there's the bed in the middle and the bed at the side. She did the lasagna method. So she did not dig up the grass that was there. She put cardboard or newsprint down, and then she put compost and soil on top of that, and she planted in that. That choked out the grass and gave her her growing medium. And once these plants were established. This bed has never been watered, and everything has thrived. She also added a lot of clover to the lawn to show that your lawn didn't have to go completely brown in the summer in a drought period. And there's nothing saying that your design can't include some edibles in with your ornamentals. So we've got our tomatoes in here with the flowers, and we've got cabbages and lettuce and other brassicas looking just perfectly lovely there, in with your mixed border of flowers. So you can have it all. And that's it for this evening. I can answer some questions. You're going to need to turn your microphones back on, and you can certainly turn your cameras back on too. And I don't see any questions in the chat box.
No, I don't see any there either. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. So
Yeah,
if
I've-
anyone has
I've
any
decided
questions.
My garden needs to be totally redone. I've got
So
no.
do you want her to come and
Okay.
do it?
Yeah, after looking at all that, Mary Ann, I've decided that my garden definitely needs some remediation.
Oh,
Thinking and more repetition. I've got, I have started calling stuff out, but I've still got way too much stuff in there, and I'm one of those people that I feel stick something in and it's not necessarily go with anything else. But yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes it's
Now
hard
the
to
rest of you
edit.
gardeners, yeah, well, that's what you have plant sales for. You dig them up and give them away.
Mhm.
Exactly,
I
yes.
think I've given brown-eyed Susans and Shasta daisies to every garden in the community, and I've still got lots.
And we appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah.
But you
and,
know
yeah,
what? You need to do that, because someday your Shasta daisy will die, and then you'll be able to go to someone else and say, I need some of my Shasta daisy back.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've given lots away, and I still have more. But this year things are really coming on now, but I need more. I need more shrubs. I need more structure. And
Yeah.
That's what I need
That's why I
too.
have Lynn McAvoy. She redesigned my garden, I don't know, 10 years ago, and it's time to, do it again.
Yeah.
Because some of the things she put in there and told me not to touch, they're not there anymore, or I don't know where they went.
Well, you got to be careful of garden thugs, because they will choke out your good stuff.
Yeah.
But your point about adding some shrubs and things that have more permanent feature to it, so that they kind of anchor the garden and look good all seasons. So the trees and the shrubs are usually the first thing you think about, and then you start putting in your perennials and your
Yeah.
annuals.
Yeah, I've got some shrubs that are doing pretty well, but there are some that are definitely need to be taken out and replaced, and yeah, something different.
Yeah.
How about you, all of you ladies? Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So
Okay, Beth?
I don't have any height, like I don't have any shrubs in mine. And I have a east facing wall that doesn't get much sunlight. And so I'm just wondering about shrubs that are more sort of shade loving.
Well, you can definitely, I mean, on the wall itself, if you wanted something, you could put like the climbing hydrangea or something like that. They do really well on an east wall, but they take forever to get going.
Oh.
And I don't know if you want something on your wall. Some people don't want it.
Probably
No.
not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but shade tolerant shrubs, anything in the yew family would do well. You could probably get away with a PGM rhododendron. They're one of the tougher ones. I believe they're hardy to zone 4. Check the Northern Lights azaleas. I'm not sure if I think they're down to zone 4. But they're pretty tough plants, and they do well in the shade. Going to say Japanese maple, but I don't think they would go
No.
that
No.
far north.
Yeah.
How about goat's beard?
A what?
A Runcus, yeah, probably.
So I've got some in a shade garden and it's done quite well.
Yeah, and there's some quite tall astilbes, like you can get 36-inch high astilbes that would add some height. And I can't think of someone will think of it when I say it, Cimicifuga,
Oh, yeah.
Actea.
Yeah.
What is it? What's the common name?
Pollinated for
Snake root,
snake root.
Snake root,
bug bean.
bugbane, snake
root.
root, yes.
Snake root.
They get very tall and they do well in the shade. So that would give you some height.
Snake root. Okay.
Snake root. And
I'm grabbing a
no, no.
pen.
yeah, the other one I'm thinking of is the pagoda dogwood, which does well in shade. And if
I
you
have
can get
lots of
one
that.
called Golden Shadows.
I have lots of that growing wild.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a really nice cultivar called Golden Shadows. It's got golden edges on it, like a gold variegation, and
Yeah.
it just pops in a dark, like a shady spot. So that's one to consider.
Okay.
That's what I can think of for now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Could you maybe, I don't know if Beth got those written down, when you send your recording, could you send the names of those plants for me, Marianne?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else?
You need to unmute yourself over here.
Who's
Can you
that?
hear me,
Your
Marianne?
mic's off.
It's Lee.
Yeah, there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Marianne, I have a question. We have a lot of tall red pines, and I've, put many different types of plants. Any suggestions? Because it's a lot of those needles are on the ground, so obviously it might be a soil issue I'm having, and it's fairly shady.
Okay. It's just because you're growing under pine trees does not mean it's acidic. You'd still
Mhm.
have to do a test. You're on the Canadian Shield, which the underlying condition is alkaline. And just, I know you think that the pine needles, because pine needles themselves are acidic, but once they fall and they break down so quickly that the acidity is gone. So they don't really
okay.
change the soil acidity. But you are probably on very shallow soil with rock
Yes.
underneath.
Yes.
So it probably is very dry. If you can find some native plants, that would probably
Mhm.
be your best bet. There's a website called Ontario Natives, I believe. I'm gonna better get some paper and make some notes here. I don't know what I did with my paper. Hold on.
Are you looking for something low ground cover? Are you looking for ground cover, or are you looking for something that's height and?
No, more height, and I have a lot of ground cover, but more in height I need. I've tried
Yeah.
different things and it doesn't work.
Yeah. So are you under the trees, like in the shade, or you're in the sun?
Under the trees, under the trees.
Okay, so they're limbed up and you're trying to get some more.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That is a tough one because it will be dry shade, definitely. Anything you're going to plant is going to need some extra TLC to get those roots established,
Mhm.
because they're going to be fighting, they're fighting the big trees for the food and moisture that is there. And those big trees act like an umbrella, so they're not, letting them have much moisture. Probably some of the same ones I suggested to Beth might work, because the snake root is a native plant. The dogwood, the pagoda dogwood, that's a native plant.
Dog.
Mhm.
No, that's a moisture loving plant. I'm trying to think of what I've got in mind. I'm a zone warmer too, so that gives me a lot
Yeah,
more
you're
options.
warmer there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Geranium microphone?
Um,
The anonymous.
Lynn said that the native geranium macrophylla.
Yes, that I
but
do
again, but
have.
that's short, that's a ground cover, yeah, but that's
I
tough as
do have
nails.
that and it's doing great.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me give that one some thought too.
Okay,
Very
thanks,
awesome.
Marianne, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else? You've all got beautiful gardens, do you?
Yes,
Any-
yes.
need any help?
I'm gonna ask you about mums. My daughter bought me a whole tray of mums for fall, I guess. I've never planted them in the garden. Like I always just buy them in the fall, but she bought me all these mums. Now they're all flowers. They're not very big, but they're all flowered out. Should I deadhead those?
Oh, they're
Or I
flowered
plant
out now?
What's that?
They're flowered out now.
Yeah, they're flowered. Like they're in the thing she brought them in, the tray, and they're all flowered out. Like they're yellow and pink and
Well, I don't know
Yeah,
what to
hopefully
say
they'll come
there
back in the
because
fall.
chances are, well, I think I'd let them bloom for now and then definitely deadhead them and get them in the ground. And are they garden mums or are they pot mums? Do you know?
I think the garden mums. Yeah, the garden
Okay,
mums.
because there's definitely a difference, but definitely once you like get, because it's still only May, they've got a
Yeah.
lot of time to set roots and get established for the winter.
Okay.
So I think you can enjoy the flowers now and then deadhead them and get them,
Okay.
get them putting their energy into their roots.
Great.
Okay, if we've got no more questions, Marianne, I'll take over because we've got a few things to get through here. And thank you very much for your presentation. It was wonderful. As I said.
Thank you.
we've all
Thank
got,
you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, well, I may disappear, but I'm not going to shut you off. So go ahead and have your meeting.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Well, does anybody remember the minutes from 2019? From our last meeting?
No.
Yes, verbatim.
Yeah, well, you all remember those, right? Because I need a motion to accept minutes from the last meeting. That was November 2019. Anybody like to put forward a motion?
I'll accept, sure,
Okay,
yeah.
Janice and Sheila. So everybody, accept, everybody.
Yep,
Yep.
yep. Oh, you disappeared.
So we had to make a change to our constitution and we sent it out to everybody saying that we would be doing virtual meetings. And apparently there's a bylaw or an act that says if you're a garden club, it never said you could do virtual meetings because this is very unusual circumstances.
Oh.
So we had to change our constitution to put that in there and we have to, I guess we have to have a motion.
Yeah.
We have to have a motion that everybody will accept that we do virtual meetings.
Until the pandemic.
Until such time as the pandemic's over, or if needs be, we will do virtual.
Hi, it's Wendy. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I propose we accept that constitutional change to allow virtual meetings.
okay, thanks, Wendy.
Thanks, Wendy.
I'll second the motion.
Second. Nope.
Got lots.
And who is that seconded?
No one's doing, I'll second it.
Who
Um,
is that?
Beth.
Beth, second.
Beth,
Okay, now we got some reports. I'll turn it over to Sue because she's got some things we need to discuss. Can you
Do
hear
me?
Sue?
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, so I'll just give a quick financial report. We currently have a balance of $5,412.31 as of May 10th in the bank. We've received funds for 26 of our planter boxes so far, and we've paid the 35% deposit to Prosperity Acres. So a total bill to Prosperity Acres for all our plants for Pine Meadow, for the planter boxes, and for the Harlow Hall is $2,800. So we will be owing, it's another $2,000 to them in another few weeks.
We'll get the money from Pine Meadow.
Right, we'll get the 1,000
Yeah.
from Pine Mountain, and the rest will come from the planter boxes.
And then we get the money from the township for the heart,
And-
for the house, yeah.
We'll get the money from the townships as well. And so second, any questions on our financial statement before I go on? I don't see any hands or
No.
chat. Okay, so next point of discussion is membership fees. So we incorrectly informed our membership that we did not need to collect fees in 2020, but we have been informed by the OHA that we are required to collect fees, even though we have not met. Therefore, we're asking our members to submit fees for the last 2 years, for last year and this year. So it would be $30 for single or $40 for families. And you can email that to me, email money transfer, or you can send me a check, or you can wait till we have a virtual meeting, up to you. My email address and my home address will be in the minutes of the meeting when they come out, so you don't have to jot them down now.
Sorry, just one sec, Sue.
Yep.
People had paid dues for the 2019, 2020. There were some that had not paid for 2018, 2019. So
Yes,
we're only asking right now from September 1st, 2020 through August 2021. So we're not asking for double dues,
No, we are asking for double dues.
right?
No, we are asking for double dues, Mary. We didn't collect any dues last year, and the new dues are for this year. Well, we'll be due in September.
But the dues that we collected in 2019 was for 2019, 2020.
So you're saying September 2019, we paid
just saying-
for,
So what we'd collected in 2019 was for 2019 till September, till the end of August.
August 21. 2020, yeah.
Okay.
So Mary, last year, we didn't meet as the garden club in April the way we normally would. And
No.
at least I seem to recall that I would pay my membership at that first meeting in
Yeah,
April. So it just logically, I mean, I don't remember because I didn't write anything on a calendar, but I don't think I did pay anything for
Nobody did.
2021. So I would owe the $30. Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Last year,
Yeah.
and then this April 21.
Yeah. Yeah.
For this last year and this year. Do
Yeah.
I pay for last year?
No.
Okay,
No, you're just joining now.
so it'll be $30 this year.
Yes.
I would
And
assume we
again-
owe $30 for April 2020 and $30 for April 2021, April and April. This is
No,
already May.
No, it's 15 for
15.
each year.
Oh, 15 for each other, sorry.
Geez.
For year or
I was
20
like-
you and your partner are members. So some people have husband and wife as partners, and they pay
So I
20.
owe $15.
Correct.
Okay, everybody's clear. We do owe for 2 years.
Yes.
This year, and there's still some people who haven't paid for 2018 as well. So we will be letting those people know because some people have probably just forgotten. The next issue is we also, so for some people who don't know, lifetime members, we have not charged them anything once they're over 80. But again, we were informed by OHA that every member has to pay. So
no.
going forward, we thought that we would cover the fee for lifetime members as a club, so they still wouldn't have to pay anything. But to do that, we'd have to have a motion, and the motion would be that members will have to let us know once they're over 80. And once they're over 80, our club will absorb the $1 fee per year for each lifetime member.
I'll move that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, great. Any
Okay,
questions?
who moved that?
Tricia?
Trish,
Trish? Who seconded?
Lee.
Lee,
Mhm.
Thanks.
Any questions for the rest of my report?
nope, that's great, thanks, Sue.
Okay,
Next up, we have Elaine for the plant sale.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Elaine.
Hi, Elaine.
So I guess we're all waiting with bated breath to say what Mr. Ford says. I don't know whether
Yes.
it's the 18th or the 20th when this is supposed to be over. I don't know. I have a feeling he's going to extend it, but
Yeah.
if it ends when it is supposed to end, we can quite conceivably still do the 29th, but it'll have to be
29th?
all hands on deck. 29th, right?
Mhm. Yes.
It'll have to be all hands on deck because basically we'll have a week to get like digging done and,
Oh my
you know,
God.
get things organized. But I've got a fair number of volunteers. We probably could still use some more. So that's basically what we're waiting for right now, just to see if and when the restrictions will be lifted. Now, regardless if we go on the 29th or we don't, if we don't go on the 29th, we'll have to, you know, put our heads together and figure out another date. We'll have to talk about that, the committee, and, you know, maybe put it out to everybody. But whether we go on the 29th or not, Don Cuddy, we've already ordered the veggies from him, so they're coming regardless, okay? So if the plant sale's not able to go on, I think, you know, and I'm open to suggestions, but I think what we'll do is basically, you know, everybody who wants to order them from the garden club, friends, family, we can start taking orders, you know, designated day. Well, obviously it doesn't have to be the 29th, but we could designate a day to pick them up ourselves. And then perhaps if friends or, you know, family want to pick them up on their own, we could do it by appointment. Or again, we're going to have to just kind of put our heads together and roll with it. But either way, we're going to have the veggies. So we'll need to, you know, sell
Send
them.
out, Elaine will send out a list of what veggies we'll have and the price list, so people will know what we have to.
Okay.
And then just send in the orders, and we'll send in orders and we'll, you know, get them ready for you and figure out when to pick
Yeah.
up.
So basically, you know, we're on hold until we hear, you know, as far as the sale itself. But yeah, the veggies will be going regardless. So. Okey doke. Anybody have any questions, any suggestions, or?
And I'm just wondering if you perhaps might contact public health. Garden centers are all open. They're called. So I just wondered if you called public health and told them our plan, how we will keep COVID restrictions in place. They may say that you're able to do it.
Okay.
Had you have done that, hadn't you, Mary?
I got in touch with public health when we were having it, and they told us exactly what we had to do. The social distancing, the
Everybody's
basically,
name and number.
we had to take contact information. People had to be masked.
But we plan to
and
do that
we were
anyway.
fine with that, and they said yes. And but if you know somebody refused to wear a mask,
They're not doing that at the garden center.
No.
okay,
No,
okay, I'll
no.
talk
Yeah,
to
they didn't do that.
I'll talk to public
They didn't
health.
have masks on at the cash register, but they
No,
were up
They were
there.
up high.
Yeah, I'll talk
I
to
don't-
public health. They said with yeah, I've got a contact from public health, and I'll talk to them and ask. And let you
Yeah,
know.
They go no matter what.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That was
Yeah.
Sue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. I don't know whether we would be legally be able to be classed as a garden center, but that is a good point.
Mhm.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
is a
do
good
that in
point.
advance.
We could have been digging for weeks.
Yeah.
Somebody go
Yeah.
there.
The other thing is we're selling vegetables. So we're selling food also.
Essential, yeah,
So that
yeah.
might help.
I mean, I was
Yeah.
just at Canadian Tire a couple hours ago, their garden center. And I mean, it's so small and compact, and there's
Yeah.
people
Everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Mary, actually,
Genesis.
if you took the public health person or said, you're welcome to come and see the site and the plan that we have put in place, they
Yeah.
can see that it's going to be like spread out and
Mhm.
way better than a lot of the garden centers.
Yeah,
Okay.
Or
leave that with
even
me.
maybe if the public health person doesn't have time to come out to the site, maybe just take
Pictures.
a few quick photos
Yes.
to be able to
Yeah, we can do
show. show.
Okay.
or-
Okay,
Okay. Are you okay to do
So,
that then, Mayor?
yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
Okay, and Janice, you want to talk about the planter boxes?
The planter boxes. Well, I guess we've got the soil ordered, we've got the fertilizer, we've got the plants ordered. Hopefully they'll be okay this year.
Yeah, I checked with the grower and everything is growing just nicely. We are picking up on the 3rd of June and we're planting on the 4th, Friday the 4th. We're still in need of a couple of volunteers. I've got quite a few have volunteered. I need another couple. So if any of you that are on here that haven't put your hand up yet, or let me know, and we'll do assignments. I have to get somebody to do Flinton. Nobody wants to do Flinton.
I've already done it a few years.
You guys do Flinton?
Sure.
Tricia has, well, you don't want to go all the way down there.
Oh, God, I'll go.
I'll go. Yeah,
On
I'd
my
be happy
garden.
to.
Audrey, can I put you down for volunteer?
Yep, Audrey and Kim.
Okay,
We'll-
great. Okay, that's it. We don't need anybody else. Thank you.
Give me the gold star.
Sue White, is Sue White with us?
Yep.
Yeah, I saw her
Yeah, I'm here.
right
Hello.
here, the last page.
Pine Meadow. So Pine Meadow is slowly getting cleaned up. We at this time can only have 1 or 2 people at a time.
Oh my gosh.
So Trish the other day did some raking. Nancy and I have done some weeding and stuff, and I'm hoping Chris and Mary are coming tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm coming.
I just sent a reminder email just in case. So I think the biggest thing with the Pine Meadow is that they fixed the box out on the road, the big box where the sign is, and they've replaced the dirt with sand. So
Oh, no.
some of the dirt. So
No.
Rick picked up some dirt for me and I told him to pick up, 5 bags, thinking they were the smaller bags. Well, we may have to return some dirt because 5 bags of these huge things. I'm thinking, oh my God. But anyhow, I think after tomorrow it'll be cleaned up and we will plant after Mary. I think I'm just looking for the day that I have to pick it up. 7th of June. So
So we're planting the 7th of June?
I'll pick them up the 7th and then we'll probably plant on the day after. And again, I don't know what the restriction will be.
Yeah.
Because with the residents, and especially at that time of year, we'll have to really book it ahead and we will be able to take as many people as Margaret allows us by her public health rules. So
yeah,
it'll be, what I'll do is I'll send out after the 20th, we'll see where we stand and I'll send out another call for volunteers and hopefully we'll get it planted in one day.
Yeah. Put me down, Sue. Put
Okay,
me down.
thanks, Sue.
Yeah, put me down. Yeah.
I love going to Pine Meadow.
Do you?
Yeah.
Who was that?
That was
That was
Audrey.
Lee.
So
It was
you'll
Lee,
send
yeah.
out
Lee
you'll send out
volunteered.
a planting date and check with Margaret and figure out because you'll probably have to do it over a few days, will you?
I think so.
Probably.
Well, it depends on how many we're allowed. I mean, even if we do different lots twice, have 4 in the morning.
Somebody in the morning and somebody in the
It's not going to
afternoon.
be the same thing as a garden, as a plant sale
No.
and outdoors.
Any, because I didn't know what it's scheduled.
But because the residents are there, the Pine Meadow is different. I mean, they have to
Yeah.
go by the rules for the
Yeah.
nursing home. So I'm not
The
going to
Amy's
argue with
gonna
her.
happen
So
that
Okay, so you let us know what's happening and
Yeah.
yeah, okay, and we'll just, those who can volunteer to come and help in Pine Meadow.
Yeah.
And are you coming too with your nice little garden, your little toolkit?
Yes, I am.
You had a very cute little toolkit.
It's got everything I need.
Okay, I'm going to turn this over to,
Nice.
okay, I'm going to turn it over to Lynn McAvoy now because she wants to talk about the gardens, the community hall gardens.
Where is she?
It's creaky little babies. Okay, I don't know, am I on the screen?
Yes, you are.
Yes, okay. Hi, everyone.
Hi,
Welcome.
Lynn. Hi, Lynn.
I am the lucky person who has been involved with the two township halls. The Berry Hall in Cloyne and the Harlow Hall in the downtown of Harlow, Ontario. If you've never been to see the hall at Harlow, it is apparently an old school from way back when that was turned into a hall, and it has several additions on it. But anyway, we put in a garden there quite a few years ago. In the meantime, the township had to come along and dig up the garden or the ground around the hall to waterproof the building. So that meant that last year we had to take everything out and hauled it all over in the back of a trailer over to Janice's place, planted the stuff in the ground at her place. Fall came along and we took it all back out of the ground and took it back to the hall and put it back in the ground. Anyway, Linda McDonald and her husband Miles are really the ones who've been the people to spearhead doing that job. And we took a day and Miles came with his trailer. So everything went in the trailer and off it went to Janice's place. Putting it back in the ground, we thought it might be okay, but in the meantime, we have lost a few plants. So Linda has told me what's been lost. So I'm going to have to go and make a few purchases and put the stuff back in the ground. Anyway, the story is that Linda is in charge, basically, of the Harlow Hall. And I know Linda is here tonight. I've seen her. There you are. Linda, do you need more help to look after the garden in the summer?
Watering.
Just the watering? Yeah.
Definitely. Okay. And well, usually when you're there watering, you pull a few weeds and, you know.
Yeah. Tidy up a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tidy up a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have a sense of what, like two or three volunteers?
Yeah. Well, it depends on how long they can do it for, because what we had been doing, one person did June, one did July, one did August, and one did September. Mm-hmm. And at this point, I'm about the only one.
Are you? Okay.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
Right. Well, that's not good. Yeah. So I guess, I mean, people know where Harlow is. And if there's anybody who is up for going over to Harlow it really takes what, about 20 minutes to go over there and water?
Mm-hmm. Depends on where you're coming from. From my house, it's about 15 minutes to get there, and then you water and come
Yeah,
home.
I guess I meant the job takes about 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 20 minutes. Yeah.
All right. Oh, Janice. Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. So that's Janice.
She's already
for a month. So Janice saying she'd volunteer for a month.
Whatever month.
Yeah, okay. So
Okay.
I'm getting the plants.
I'll volunteer.
Sorry, was that Rosie? I think, was that Rosie who said she?
Yeah, I'll volunteer for what the.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. All right.
There is a planter box there too that has to be watered. So
That's fine.
That's me. Yeah.
mhm.
Oh,
There's 3 months right there.
I do the planter box. I'm gonna plant it.
Okay. All right. That's great.
so you'll let us know what month, Lynn?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's 2 people. But we really need one more, I guess, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if Rosie's planting the planter box, does she want to do June then?
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Well,
I don't know why my.
July,
That's
Oh, why
June the
my
4th.
speaker's not moving. Oh, there.
June the 4th
I'll
is when
do
it's being
June.
planted.
Okay,
Okay, good.
so, and, what about Janice? Do you want to do
care, you just,
July?
July, I can do July or August.
Either one. I'll do one and she could do the other, whichever.
Okay.
Okay,
Linda?
if there's a, how comes if you can't do it 1 week, how many times, once a week or? How?
Well, that all depends on the weather too. If it's really hot, then, you know, you have to go.
Once a
Okay.
week, yeah.
Okay,
Like,
Yeah.
twice,
I don't think I'm going anywhere.
at least.
Yeah,
I can probably do, we do need to do it, in September too.
mm-hmm,
So I can do September. I'll be around.
okay.
Can I just suggest, it's Harlow Communities Garden. What if we got Nancy to put it in the paper asking, well, or whoever writes the Harlow section, asking community members there if they would
A good idea.
help watering.
Certainly worth a try. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I say, there's some younger people there.
I've
Yeah,
asked.
sure.
Like, I mean, like 40. They're paramedics, so.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Okay, well, that's certainly worth.
There's no school board, so.
Yeah,
because
I'm thinking that some of those girls.
Yeah, they would do it. Yeah, well, that'd be wonderful. Because that's actually maybe not a bad way of getting some younger members too.
Well, if they have kids too, so it'd be a good. for
An
them.
opportunity. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Linda, do you want to leave it at that?
Okay,
And then we'll just see what comes out of the newspaper ad.
Lynn said she was doing.
Sure.
okay.
Have enough for Troy?
That's awesome.
Call me
No.
anytime I like to get out of the house.
Okay.
Hilarious. They're in the other room.
So then are you taken care of, Linda? for the
Yes,
moment? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And a great big thank you to Linda and Miles for the
Mhm.
massive job of getting that garden out of there and getting it in the ground and then back out again. Have you ever done that before? I am picking up the plants from Prosperity Acres on the 27th of May. This year, we're trying a different plant we've never had before. It's called Profusion Zinnias. And they are a nice little plant that I have never grown before, but I've seen growing at the church in Tweed. If you drive through the town of Tweed, they have a pretty little garden out in the front of that. And these little zinnias were just blooming their heads off the whole summer. And they looked as if they were almost artificial. They were so perfect. And they grew in a little mound and came in pink and white and yellow. And Linda had said, I think it's time we had some other colors at the Harlow Hall. So I thought, okay, we're going to try these and see how they do. And I thought if they can grow them at the church, we can grow them at the hall. So that's what we're going to try at both the Berry Hall and the Harlow Hall this year.
Do they need to
So
be
I-
deadheaded?
No,
Good.
no, they're not going to be, even if they do. They're not going to be, to be honest. The Berry Hall, as far as looking after it, we do that on a monthly basis too, the same as the Harlow Hall. Nancy Strawn has volunteered to water for a month. So it would be nice if we could have the same sort of setup at the Berry Hall to go in and kind of tidy and water one person for a month, or if they want to do it as a pair, sure.
Hi, it's Wendy. Hi,
Wendy?
Lynn, it's Wendy, yeah.
Yeah.
Wendy
okay.
Hodgkin. I'll
Yes.
do a month.
Okay, well, that's great. So
Probably
Nancy,
July.
yes,
I could have
okay,
July.
I'll put that down. Thank you.
Did you have Nancy?
Yeah, Nancy, I think you were doing June, were you?
It doesn't matter. Sure,
All
I'll
right.
do June. Yeah,
I'll
I'll
put-
do June.
June, okay, that's Nancy. And so August, I better put down, I was doing September at Harlem. Yeah.
Might have to do the close up in September.
What's that?
So-
To get our plants and
I
stuff?
don't know.
Lynn, it's Wendy again. I'll do September for the tidy up at the end.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Right, so there- Instead of July? Yeah.
No, I'll do both.
Oh, all right,
Oh.
thank you. So does that mean, Wendy, you're gonna water in September is what you're saying?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, well, thank you. All right, so we just have August.
I'll do August as well.
Nancy? Okay,
Sure.
great. Those are the high pressure months, Nancy.
June and
June and August?
So if you need a hand, Nancy, get hold of me.
Or Nancy, call Wendy.
Yeah, right.
You just have to organize the hoses.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Yeah.
and sorry, I can't help out with that this year, but the knob that comes off that you have to stick on to turn the water on is underneath behind the propane tanks. Because the woman who works in the forestry office, she waters the trees in the museum.
Okay.
And so we kind of share that
Okay.
on-off valve thing.
I had understood that's maybe Sue Arthur's, that you had the hoses, is that right?
I do have the hoses. Yes, I stored them for the winter.
Oh, okay.
And so I dropped those off.
So it would be Nancy, if you could drop them at
Yeah.
Nancy?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
All right, thank you. That's great.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's starting.
Okay. So I guess we're good then for the 2 halls. Right, thank you very much, ladies. That is my.
Right,
Yes,
get out of my
I'm
chair.
done.
Okay, last but not least, Denise, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Denise is our webmaster.
Okay, so everything is still a work in progress with the website, as it always should be, because you have to keep it current and relevant and all those things. What would be really great is to add more photos. So as we're working away on the plant sale and the planter boxes and the community halls, any pictures that could be sent would be fantastic, and I will add them.
We can do that.
Yeah. Everyone likes looking at pictures. No one likes reading the content.
We had one of the OHA meetings we went to, and there was a lady that stood up and gave everybody shit because she said, I've looked at all your websites and there's no pictures on there. Nobody's going to want to join. They want to see pictures. They want to see you doing things. They want to see flowers. They don't want to read stuff. They just want to see your pictures. So get the pictures in.
And they also want to see pictures not of the planter boxes and the plants and the borders. They want to see pictures, like animated pictures of people doing the jobs. You should have pictures of our members doing things.
Kim, get your selfie thing out.
Done. I'll go around and take pictures of everybody.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
What you say?
Hey, Denise.
Yes.
Because I've had to switch things around, our next 2 meetings are going to be virtual.
Okay.
And I've had to switch things around, so your list of speakers may not necessarily be right.
Okay.
Yeah, one wasn't working, or one I had to change one, and then there's one that wants to come and speak in person, and who knows what's going to happen in June, July, or what the rules will be at the hall. We just have to play it by ear. Okay, our next meeting, Michelle said to remind everybody, volunteer volunteer hours. When we do a project, the person in charge of the project takes accounts for all the hours that's done on the day. Like, let's say we go into Pine Meadow and there's 20 of us there. Sue would count those 20 people, however many hours, and then put in that number of hours. But the other hours that you spend in there, like watering the people are going to be watering the gardens, or
You have to report them.
digging up for plant sale, those hours need to be taken into account. And yeah, so just keep track of your volunteer hours, okay?
So
our next meeting is Wednesday, June the 9th. And the speaker will be a master gardener, Joyce Hostin, and our topic is creating a rainscape garden. And that's capturing every drop of rain for your gardens. So that should be interesting. And that is it.
And that's virtual too, Mary?
That's virtual, yeah.
Okay.
So yes, so if the plant sale is a go, we'll send a quick email out. We're going to start digging gardens, and if we need your donations. But you've got whatever you want to divide, put them aside for us. I know Sheila and Karen have been getting their little hearts out and dividing. So once we get to go ahead, it's going to be all systems go, and we're going to start digging and potting and getting stuff ready. Okay. All right,
meeting, Mary.
Yes,
Great
thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Nice seeing you, Mary.
Thank you.
You all go down to the leave. You see the leave down there, like hit the leave, so you're going to leave the meeting.
Yes.
Right here.
Am I done?
Mary?
Do I have to have motion to? Yeah.
It's Rosie talking. I
Good seeing you,
I
Nancy.
didn't get everybody.
Hi, Sheila.
I didn't get
Same to you too, Elaine.
I didn't get everybody.
Did you? Oh, okay.
I didn't get everybody's name.
I know.
Do you know everybody that was on?
Well, I can go through. I can go through the list. Okay, here,
Are
I'll
you
tell
gonna
you.
stay on for an extra 5?
I can stay on with you, Rosie. I've
What's
got the list here.
I tried a list as well.
Okay.
Because everybody's
Okay.
gonna leave now, and I won't be
You
able
want
to
to take a screenshot, or do you want me to take a screenshot and email
Yeah.
it to you, Mary or Elaine or somebody?
Send it to Rosie. I can check off. I can check off the list here and tell you what I've got, Rosie.
I've got, okay, do you want to go over it or no right now?
Okay, we can go over. We got Sue Arthurs.
What do you want to?
Okay, we got Sue
Yeah.
Arthurs. We've
Yep.
got Sue Barshard. We got Chris Bacon. We've
Chris,
got
right.
Denise. We've got Denise. We've got
Right.
Beth.
And Beth,
Michelle is here. So we have Michelle.
you,
Me.
who?
Michelle is here.
Michelle,
Uh, don't have
Burgess? Oh, I missed her.
Yeah, she's here. She's
Okay.
she's at my place.
Okay, and then
Uh,
you, right?
We've got
Then we
Audrey.
jumped down to you.
I'm at Fittler.
Who?
Have you got Audrey? Audrey Fittler?
Audrey Fittler?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Beth Buck?
Yeah, Beth Buck. Now I saw Diane Herring on there, but I didn't see her. I saw her name come up. But I haven't seen her talk or
I saw Diane.
Yeah, that's Diane
I saw
Herring.
Diane, but I didn't. Okay.
Don't forget Nancy's cat.
I've got a delay. I've got a delay. I don't know why mine is so slow here.
Okay, so put
Again,
Diane
then
in.
I've got Linda McDonald, right?
You got Wendy Hodgkin.
Linda McDonald. No, I didn't get her.
Okay, Wendy Hodgkin.
Yep. Mary Kelly.
Yeah, you got me.
Yeah.
Do you have Sharon March?
Yeah, Sharon Morch. That's one of our guests.
That's a guest though. Right?
And Kim, what was Kim's name?
Sharon
Kim?
Mort.
Yeah, Sharon Morch, Morch.
Morch.
CH, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Sharon
Kim,
Morch, and who is the other one?
Kim Hughes was with Audrey.
Hughes. Oh, with Audrey Hughes?
Yep.
Okay, wait. Okay,
Good night,
Audrey's
everybody.
not a member then.
Yeah, you
Bye,
can go, Sheila.
Sheila.
I got
Talk
you.
soon.
Bye.
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 Hi. Mary? So we have, next would be Linda McDonald, Lynn
Yeah.
McAvoy,
Yeah,
Elaine Miller,
yeah.
Tricia Claire.
Who?
Lee Spottiswood.
Trisha, you got
Lee
Janice.
Spottiswood, right?
Yeah, you got Janice. St. John.
Yes. Sheila Steele,
Yeah.
right?
Nancy.
Sheila
Yeah.
Steele, Nancy Strawn, yeah.
Yeah,
Sue White,
yeah.
and me,
And you, that's it.
and me.
Yeah.
So what's,
Okay, good.
how
I
many is
got it. So
that,
the word-
Mary?
So it was showing 19 on the screen and then there were, there was Kim. So I've got 3 others here with me. So 19, 20, 21, 22, and then Kim, there should be 23, Rosie.
19, 20, 22, 23.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, you got it?
23?
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, that's got it. I got it.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you. I was running out of juice, so I had to plug in my iPad.
Okay.
I had to move.
Okay, everybody.
Okay.
Sharon, thanks for joining us. And
Okay, thank you, Mary. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was good.
Okay.
It's, you should go take a look at this woman, the YouTube video, and she's also got a YouTube on her gardens, her own gardens. They're fabulous.
Oh, okay. Oh, I
It's
will.
A lot of work, but yeah.
Oh, I
Nice to see.
bet.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Mary.
Hit your leave buttons, okay?
Bye.
Bye now.
All right. We'll touch
Bye.
base. I'll touch base
Bye.
tomorrow with you, Mayor.
Leaving, Nancy?